So welcome to this operating system class, and now we are discussing the topic called as generations of operating systems. So yesterday in the last class, we talked about the history of operating system. We told it as first generation computers, second generation computers, third generation computers, fourth generation computers. The first thing was vacuum tubes, second was transistors, third was integrated chips, and these integrated chips, we call them as large scale integration, and at present it is a very large scale integration. So these are the different developments in the different generations we were talking. And the first generation was of electromechanical devices. The second generation was a batch processing was introduced. Third generation, multi-programming, spooling, and multitasking was introduced. And here, network operating system, distributed operating system. So such type of advanced operating systems were introduced in the fourth generation and after. So a quick recap. The thing what happens in batch processing or what happens in the first generation was people used to do the things on magnetic tapes, and so in the punched cards, and these punched cards are fed to the punched card reader. The software was in magnetic tapes. They are going to be done at one end. We call it as a terminal or an input end. The second, you say 7094. So we have the central processing unit where it is taking inputs, it is processing, and it is generating the output, and the outputting is transmitted to the another position. We call that one as a printer. So in this way, the first generation was handled with the tapes. So how the batch processing was handled? That is the question here. So batch processing, when it was introduced, there are two languages we called. One, it was BASIC, another we call it as Pascal, and another we call it as Fortran. So people used to take the Fortran punched cards, bring it to the computer. Those punched cards are grouped, and the software was put on a tape. The punched cards are given as an input, and that batch is executed. Once that batch is done, later on, Pascal programs are part of the punched cards. Then they were putting with the magnetic tape. Again, the same process repeats. The only thing is computer can't switch from Pascal to Fortran or Fortran to BASIC. It can't switch. The only thing is that. So if it is doing Pascal jobs, it will do complete Pascal jobs. After that, it will switch to the Fortran jobs. In this way, batch by batch jobs are processed. We call that one as an batch processing operation system. So these photographs we were discussing, these are all electromagnetic devices which was taken in first generation. Just now we talked about users are going to give batches, their jobs to the operating system. Operating system is bifurcating the things into different batches and handling the batches one after the other. So that is where the second generation took place. And from the second generation, the 1960s, it has with the third generation. There in the third generation, the concepts of multi-programming has been introduced. In this multi-programming, the first initiative what people look at, it is at spooling. So simultaneous peripherals operations online. So what happens is that while the input operation is going to be processed, in the same way, the output operations at the same interval of time is going to be processed. CPU is not going to do any task. Only the input operation and output operation, they are put together. So there is no overlap between input and there is no overlap between output. So simultaneously input and output is going to take place. So that is where this spooling happened. That is also we discussed in the last class. So this advancement here, we were telling that the magnetic tapes are now replaced with some discs or they are replaced with some floppy disk. So we call it as floppy disk here. So software is going to be at one end, user programmings are going to be at another end. So both of them, they have to be done in the CPU. There is no internal storage as today we have in our laptop as 500 GB hard disk or 1 terabyte hard disk as of today. We don't have that luxury at that times. So CPU is going to have only the random access memory, is going to have only the random access memory to execute the things. So floppy disk getting the input user programs, and the software, another floppy disk is put at another program. They are going to be done, allotted in the memory, and thereby the answers are again taken back to the user's drive where it happens. So that is the concept where the third generation was addressing. Now, when this is going to happen, the third generation has introduced two words. One word we call it as multi-programming, another word we call it as time sharing. So these are the two buzzwords in the third generation, and lot of articles has been taken up, lot of concepts or the explanations happen how to make this multi-programming. So in the multi-programming concept, that is the memory, what the random access memory was there. So random access memory where it is going to be there was of 0 to 512 MB. That is, assume it is half of a GB. So now if you purchase a laptop, people ask you 4 GB RAM or an 8 GB RAM. Maybe if you are purchasing a mobile, you will be asking whether it is 2 GB RAM or 3 GB RAM, like that. So, but at that time, 512 capacity RAM is very high-end quality. So what is happening is, whenever the system is turned on, whenever a system is turned on, we are going to have a bootstrap loader. We will be having a bootstrap loader. So this bootstrap loader is the loader which is the first program which is going to be executed, and this it is going to load the OS into RAM. So that is the first task which is going to happen. So where the operating system is going to stay, we will call that one as system space. We will call that one as system space. So this space where the operating system is residing, we are going to call that one as system space. Okay. Now assume it is going to occupy some 200 MB of space. So it is going to occupy some 200 MB of space. That means it is going to have 300 locations, some 312 locations for the jobs, and it is going to have 200 MB for the operating system as a space. Now, the locations where the users can save his or her program, and that space people are going to call that one as user space. That space people are going to call it as user space. So in user space, user can write his C program, users can write his Pascal program, user can write his Fortran program. So now the central processing unit, using the concept of context switching, using the concept of context switching, it can switch between multiple tasks. It can switch between multiple tasks. That means it can move from job 1 to job 2, it can move from job 2 to job 3. Similarly, it can move from job 3 to job 1. In this way, switching of tasks by the central processing unit from one job to another, we are going to say it is a context switching, which is an inherited property of multi-programming, which is the inherited properties of multi-programming. So how is this happening? How is this happening? Assume that the program is going to occupy between 0 to 100 MB, and program 2 is occupying from 100 to 200 MB, and another program is going to occupy some 200 to 300. So that means here I am going to have some 12 KB of free space. Here I am going to have some free space. So here we are going to say a part of a memory is allocated to the user. A part of a memory is allocated to a user. The part or a location, the chunk where the memory allocation is going to be called here as partition. So job 3 occupies 0 to 100, job 2 occupies 100 to 200, job 1 occupies 200 to 300, and there is some 12 KB left, and that 12 KB we can call it as a free space. The 12 KB we are going to call it as free space. Fine. Are you able to see the screen? Are you able to see the new screen? Yes or no?
No, sir.
No. Yeah.
No,
okay.
sir.
No. Yeah. I just that's why. Okay. Now I will write here itself. So now what is happening is we will have process 1, we will have process 2, and we will have process 3. Process is nothing but job 1, job 2, and job 3. So here I am going to write scanf some I. Here I am going to write scanf j. So you have written 2 lines of code. Now you have written some swap.program here. So obviously what happens is that at the initial time, job 1 is going to be given with CPU, job 1 is going to be given with IO resources, etc. All the resources which are there, all the resources are going to be given to it. So what happens was CPU will execute the job 1, and when the job requires some input output operation, when the job requires some input output operation with human intervention, that means I am going to have scanf I am going to have scanf j. That means from the keyboard I should say I equals to 10, from the keyboard I should say j equals to 20. So 10 enter, 20 enter, I have to give it from a keyboard. So almost it takes 2 seconds. So 2 seconds of time CPU is going to be idle. 2 seconds of time CPU is going to be in idle. But in our past experiences, what is happening is we have registers as high speed devices, followed by the cache memory having the high speed memory, and followed by the random access memory. This is the hierarchy what it is going to happen. This is the hierarchy. So when we are working with register, when we are working with cache memory, they are going to work with nanoseconds. They are going to work with nanoseconds. When it is going to be random access memory, it is going to work with milliseconds. So what is happening is when it is going to convert it into 2 seconds to, it is going to be some 2000 milliseconds. It is going to be some 2000 milliseconds. So which is a little bit idle time of the CPU is more. So what CPU is going to do is to save that CPU time, to save that time, what CPU is going to do is it is going to apply the concept of context switching, and it is switching from job 1 to job 2. Now assume that job 2 doesn't need any IO. Job 2 doesn't need any IO. That means job doesn't have any input operation. So it is directly going to display it everything, the logic in the CPU, it is going to execute it things in the CPU, and it wants to display the output. So there is no need of human intervention. So 100% job 2 will be executed perfectly, and after job 3 is executed, then only it is going to move to job 3. So that is the difference you should understand. If job 1 needs IO, if job 1 needs human intervention, at that time only context switching happens. At that time only operating system will move from one job to other. Otherwise, it will execute the complete job, and after executing the complete job, then it is going to migrate to the next job. So this is the fundamental thing what is happening in a multi-programming. So the good takeaways what from the multi-programming: number one, multi-programming is going to have the concept of context switching. Context switching means CPU can switch between multiple resources. Second takeaway, if job 1 needs human intervention, if job 1 has IO to be supplied from the user, up to that position CPU will execute. To save its idle time, it will switch from job 1 to job 2. Again, if job 2 needs human intervention, if job 2 needs some IO externally, then what CPU will do? To save its idle time, it will migrate its content from job 2 to job 3. If job 2 doesn't need any IO intervention, if job 3 doesn't need any user, obviously it will execute complete job. After executing the complete job, then it turns as a cycle and go back to the job 1. So this is how a multi-programming is going to execute simultaneously the jobs one after the other. So this is the highlight in the third generation computer. Now, today we will be introducing one more new concept of multi-programming. So that one we are going to call it as time sharing operating system. This one we are going to call it as time sharing operating system. So time sharing operating system is a blended approach. Time sharing operating system is a blended approach which it is going to support multitasking. So when the two terms here are coined, time sharing, multitasking, that means no complete execution is going to take place. You should understand the difference. No complete execution is going to take place. Partial execution is going to take place. Partial execution is take place. So in the multi-programming, complete job is executed. If it needs IO, then only it is going outside. In the multi-programming, it executes complete job, and if the job needs IO, then only it is switching to the next job. If the job doesn't need any IO, it will execute 100%, then only it will switch to the job. But in time sharing operating system, it is not doing in that approach. It is switching between multiple tasks. Of course, it is using context switching, but it is going to encourage partial execution. How is it executing partial execution? It is going to fix a time quantum. It is going to have a time quantum, and assume the time quantum is some 1 minute. Assume the time quantum is 1 minute. So now what is happening is, you can see this diagram. Assume there are 5 processes: process 1, process 2, process 3, process 4, and process 5. There are 5 processes which are needing the support of an operating system, which are needing the support of resources. It can be CPU, it can be memory, it can be IO devices. So the jobs are in need of resource management. The jobs are in need of resources which are in control of operating system. As operating system is a resource manager, it has to give justification, it has to do justification to all the jobs which is around it. So now what it is going to do is, first 10 milliseconds, it is going to, first 10 milliseconds, mean if it is some 10 milliseconds, assume it is some 10 milliseconds. So first 10 milliseconds, it is going to execute the first process. Next 10 milliseconds, it is going to execute the next process. Next 10 milliseconds, it is going to execute the third process. Next 10 milliseconds, it is going to next. And in this way, it is incompleting the program. It is incompleting the program, and it is switching with partial execution. It is not going to do the complete execution. It is going to do the partial execution. So first 10 milliseconds, it stays with first program. Whatever state the program it is, it doesn't care. It will leave that at that position, then goes to the next. Again, next 10 milliseconds, it executes the next job. Whatever state the next job is, it doesn't mind. It will goes to the third program. In this way, it is going to switch between one another, the two in an order of round robin. The two in an order of round robin. So round robin means the location where it has begun, it will goes in a circular form and come back to the first position. So assume there is process A, assume there is process B, assume there is process C. First process to second process it moves, second process to third process it moves, again third process to first process it come back. So it is like a chain, it is in form of a chain. So that architecture we are going to call here as round robin architecture. So in round robin, hope you have studied data structures. In data structures you would have been got this have learned about the term called as round robin. Okay, fine. Now coming back to the things, time sharing operating system. In a time sharing operating system, the first takeaway, it is going to support multitasking. Multiple tasks are going to be handled simultaneously. Second thing, it is going to encourage partial execution. In multi-programming, complete execution is done, then only it is going to switch to the second job. But in time sharing operating system, complete execution is not happened, only partial execution is going to happen. Now, how is the step 1, how is the step 2 executed? Step 1, step 2 is executed with these two elements. One, it is called as time quantum. Second, it is called as round robin. In time quantum, there is a fixed time slot. There is a fixed time slot to each and every program, to each and every job, each and every process the OS has to execute. So first 10 milliseconds, it executes process 1. Next 10 milliseconds, it executes process 2. Next 10 milliseconds, it executes process 3. In this way, one after the other, it is going to execute, and then come back to the first position. Then we are going to have a loop, we get a cycle, and that cyclic process we are going to call here as a round robin architecture. So I will just distinguish you how partial execution is done. So this is job 1, this is job 2, this is job 3. So job 1 here, job 2 here, and job 3 here. So we have 1, 2, 3 instructions, 1, 2, 3, 4 instructions, 1, 2, 3 instructions. So in this way it is there. So first assume time quantum is 10 milliseconds. Assume time quantum is 10 milliseconds. So first 10 milliseconds it executes instruction 1. Next 10 milliseconds it executes instruction 1. Next 10 milliseconds it executes instruction 1. After instruction 1 is happened, then it bounces back to the second instruction. 10 seconds it executes first instruction. 10 milliseconds it executes second instruction. 10 milliseconds it executes second instruction. Again it come back. Then third, executes third. Now it comes back. Now what is the status? Job 1 is completed. So it doesn't touch job 1. It executes only job 2. Again it touches job 3. Job 3 is done. So at that time it doesn't do job 3 because job 1 is done, job 3 is done. Only job 4 is there. So after executing the job 4, it concludes my job is done. So in this way, time sharing operating system is switching between multiple jobs at a time, and it is going to have a partial execution, and therefore that concept we are going to call it as multitasking. So multiple tasks are handled one after the other with a fixed time quantum. So that is where the time sharing operating system is going to take the advantage. So coming to the next stage, we will call here as the 4th generation operating systems. Coming to the next stage, we will call here as 4th generation operating systems. So first operating system, we were telling that it is electromechanical devices. At that time, we are going to have only vacuum tubes. We are having only vacuum tubes. After the vacuum tubes, they are replaced with transistors. They are replaced with now we call here as integrated chips. We call here as some integrated chips, and these integrated chips we are going to call it as large scale integration. So fourth generation time, what is happening is the microprocessors has come into limelight. The microprocessors has evaluated at that time. The much focusing was towards the microprocessors. So we will be having some 800 microprocessor, 8085 microprocessor, 8086 microprocessor. So in this way, we will be having most of the microprocessors, and these most of the microprocessors, they are taken with the proprietary people like Intel people and like the AMD people, AMD. So these people, they have launched 8000, that is 8085, 8086. So this is a 8-bit microprocessor. They have introduced some 16-bit microprocessor. So right now we are using Windows 10 and we are using some quad core processor or octa-core processor. So at this juncture, now we are going to work on 64-bit. But in the fourth generation time, roughly around 1990s and 2000s, so we are exposed only with 8-bit, 16-bit and 32-bit. Now in 2020, now maybe roughly between 2017 onwards, 64-bit operating systems, I mean, the operating system has a capacity to work simultaneously with 64 bits at a time. Okay, fine. So as far as the operating system evaluation is going to be considered, the first one was assembly language. After the assembly language, the source code happened and it was in high level language. So the monochrome operating systems has taken place. One, we call it as Microsoft Disk Operating System, MS-DOS. Microsoft Disk Operating System, and second was the Unix operating system. So these two are the market giants. These two are the market leaders who has introduced the operating systems along with the Apple Mac, So these three people are the industry giants where they have introduced their operating system. And Intel people, they used to process the chips, and IBM people, they used to bring the mini computer, microcomputer, the personal computer, the laptop. So these are having 110 years of history for IBM, where these are the people who has taken up the mini computer, the macro computers, the PCs. So and the inbuilt component was taken with Intel people. So those people, they have developed the chips, the 8085, 8086, like that chips. So with all these people, the operating system came into existence. So Unix operating system and Microsoft DOS operating systems, Apple Mac OS. So these are the things which were introduced at that time. So along with Intel, along with AMD, so Motorola also, along with Intel and AMD, Motorola also has been a market leader at those times who has brought these chips, etc. So a quick recap of the generations of computers. So here you can see the diagram. So 1942, the electromechanical computer came. At that time, Charles Babbage, the father of computer. So he was working on electromechanical devices, and that too, at that time, there were vacuum tubes. So vacuum tubes are then replaced with transistors. Vacuum tubes are then replaced with transistors. At that time, there is an evolution for magnetic tapes and magnetic discs, and they are replaced with punched cards. So at this time, we are having this punched cards. So 1942, there is things people used to do the things in punched cards. Those, they are replaced with this discs and tapes. And when it comes to I just have to mention the punched cards here. So punched cards. So this is where the first commercial automatic computer. This is the diagram here. So second generation, it is from 1959 to 63, where transistors has replaced. And coming to the third generation, it is replaced with ICs. It is replaced with integrated chips, and these integrated chips, they are made up of the magnetic material, where they are made up of this metal oxide semiconductor metal oxide semiconductor, and people they used to call MOS. People used to call it as metal oxide semiconductors in short form. They are calling it as MOS. And now we are at the 4th generation and 5th generation. So the metal oxide semiconductors are used with integrated chips, and these integrated chips now they are replaced with very large scale integrated chips, and the CMOS, composite metal oxide semiconductor technology. The CMOS technology was introduced in the 4th generation computer. So 1st generation, it is just electromechanical content, and it is totally vacuum tubes. Second, they are replaced with capacitors. Third, they are replaced with integrated chips with large scale integrations and made with metal oxide semiconductors. And fourth, it is replaced with very large scale integrated chips, and they are made with composite metal oxide semiconductors. So this is how the technology has been grown. So from generation to generation, this is how the technology has been changed from generation to generation. So if the chip is made with 10 transistors, that is one set of content. Chip made with 100 transistors, it is large scale integration. Chip made with 1000 transistors, it is called as a very large scale integration. So in this way, the generation or evaluation happens. Now you can see this diagram. So silicon transistors, it is 1 in 1950. It is replaced with 16 transistors. Then it is replaced with 4,500 transistors, replaced with some 2,75,000 transistors, replaced with 31,00,000 transistors. And now we are now at this 64-bit microprocessor. We are now presently working with 64-bit microprocessor. In this, we have some 59 lakhs, roughly 60 lakh transistors we are able to work at a time today, as of now. And now I will talk about GPU. We will call it as graphics processing unit. I will just talk before I take this generations. So here we have this IBM mainframes computer. We have this one as some IBM mainframe computer, and IBM mainframe computers, they are replaced with microcomputers. Microcomputers now they are replaced with personal computers, and personal computers right now they have been extended to some desktop version, and then they are to the laptop version, etc. So this is how every system has been upgraded. Every evaluation has added lot of transistors. So in the 1st generation, it is just vacuum tubes replaced it to very limited scope, that is 1 transistor or 16 transistors. But you people, you have a luxury to work on this graphical processor. You people have a luxury to work on roughly 60 lakh transistors at a time in your mobile or in your laptop or in your desktop. So this is how the technology advancements happen in computers. Now let us look into the last word of this here, that is core general processing unit. Okay, to just verify your laptop configuration, people will call my laptop is some dual core. My laptop is supported with the dual core, or some people will tell my laptop is supported with quad core, and others will say my mobile is with octa core. So that means if there is dual cores, there are 2 CPUs. If there is octa core, there are 4 CPUs. If it is quad core, there are 4 CPUs. If it is octa core, so we'll be having some 8 CPU. You will be having some 8 CPUs. So in this way, we have an advancement to our things. So every CPU is called as a core. Every CPU is as a core. So I have my car. Assume if you are telling that I have my car, and my car runs on LPG gas, and my car runs on petrol. My car runs on petrol, and my car runs on LPG gas. That means quad 1, that is core 1 is petrol, core 2 is the LPG gas. Similarly, I have my electricity, and the electricity I have general electricity, nor sometimes I am going to rely on solar energy. That means general electricity is core 1, relying on solar things, is going to be core 2. So similarly, central processing units, they are having 2 cores, quad core, 4 core CPUs, 8 core CPUs, we call it as octa core. In this way, n cores are having done. But still, these cores are having a friend. These cores are having a friend, and that friend is going to support gaming. That friend is going to support some gaming architecture. So if there is a gaming concept happened, then definitely it has to be done with graphics. It has to be done with graphics processor, GPU, graphics processor unit. So you can verify in your laptop whether it is having some NVIDIA, NVID. So I'm just looking at the spelling. So NVID. So some NVIDIA, some quad core is there, oct core is there, dual core is there. Those will do the general CPU jobs. Those will do the general CPU jobs. Now assume I need some more extensions to my CPU. I need some more extensions to my CPU. Obviously, you have to depend on the graphics processor, and especially graphics processor is again inbuilt with our latest laptops. So cores will be there. Along with that core, we will be having the graphics processor. So to have an enhanced virtual reality or an augmented reality or a gaming support, now people are totally relying on this graphics processor. So thank you. This is for this day. So I'll just end this presentation here. So I am downloading the attendance list. I have 163 students turned today, and some have permissions. So download attendance list. Now I am going to stop my recording.